Blazers brought in pre-draft workouts today, though. And most notably, I think for folks that are out there and the panic is in the streets is Jared McCain.
Yeah.
Brought in Duke guard.
Duke guard who
Shooter.
I have loosely comped to CJ McCollum because it's an easy thing to kind of grasp onto. His size, his prolific shooting, a proclivity to avoid the rim. Very reminiscent of CJ. He's a significantly higher volume 3-point shooter while being a plus mid-range guy, whereas CJ at Lehigh murdered the mid-range. But McCain can shoot the living hell out of the ball, and at workouts today, I heard he was shooting the living hell out of the ball, and that's what he does. And for everybody freaking out, you're just doing your due diligence. For the love of God, calm down.
Okay, but I think that this is where people freak out as 6'3".
He's not even 6'3". He's tiny.
Yeah, he's listed. That's what his listed height is, which I think all those guys listed height is 6'3", and you're like, 6'1" if you squint. But due diligence is one thing. I think what people are waiting for, and this is how the process works out, the closer you get to the draft, you want to have the last impression. You want to have the last workout. You want to gain as much intel as you can before a guy comes in. When do the heavy hitters start coming in? Because Thursday, we are officially 3 weeks out from the NBA draft.
And Thursday, officially, there will be a lottery prospect in the building.
Okay.
A top 10 player will be in the building on Thursday, and very likely a top 10 player on Friday.
Okay. And so that is
why I've tried to calm everybody down.
It seems like we have to go through this when we hit the reset button on this conversation every single year, but people get spooked when it's something that, they don't want so badly. The reality of where the Portland Trailblazers are right now, what was the biggest downfall that this team had? A lack of shooters. And so they're going to bring in, and they should bring in, any and all of the top flight shooters that are in this draft.
And that's what McCain is. He's one of the best shooters in this draft. There's no doubt about it.
That doesn't mean that the Blazers are going to draft him. And then also, I think we also have to reset this. The backcourt is going to look wildly different if the offseason goes as we all expected.
Look, let's go completely off the rails here. What if they trade Brog and Ant?
We did 20 minutes of Robin Williams, so
yeah,
we can.
I
think we've already set the standard of going off the rails.
But I'm saying
today.
just like the idea of like what the franchise could do. They're very likely trading Brogdon already.
Absolutely.
What if they traded Ant too? And now you've got another guard spot open.
And that leaves you with Scoot Henderson as your lone primary ball handler. You must surround him with shooting threats.
Or getting another guy in the pipeline that you think is the best player available at that point.
Yeah.
And so you're just doing your due diligence so that if you do go down a path.
A lot of holes. Can't be picky.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like if they move 2 of their 4 guards, then it's a whatever situation. I still don't think that organizationally everybody goes, it's more small guards. It's like, okay, let's take a look at who the Blazers have drafted since Neil O'Shea was removed. Scoot Henderson is the only one under 6'5", and Shaedon Sharpe is the only guy under 6'7". So
they're getting larger.
That's stylistically, and everyone's like, well, Scoot's small. It's like, who they were supposed to take there? Who else were they going to take? Realistically, who were they going to take there? And
one of the Thompson twins.
In that, yeah, sure. Look, I love
Derek Lively.
I love the Thompson twins.
Derek Lively.
You're at that position. You're not doing that. And
no.
Scoot is like the threshold for a player where you're like, okay, small guards don't really work in the league, but if you're going to, you go with this level of talent and pedigree. For me, it's the reason why I look at Rob Dillingham or Reed Shepherd or even Jared McCain, who's further down the draft. Why I wouldn't go anywhere near one of those guards, because as nice as it is to have a guy who can get you buckets off the bench, why is Peyton Pritchard likely not going to play in the NBA Finals?
A lot of reasons. He's a defensive liability.
And it's not because he doesn't try.
No.
Lord knows it's not because
really
he doesn't try.
Hard.
It's because of his size. T.J. McConnell is a guy who is a maniacal defender.
Yeah.
And he has to give 110% effort all the time because of his size. If they got matched up in this series, he'd still play. But guess what they would try to do to him? I'm going to walk you up here if I'm Luka.
Yeah.
Every single time. And that's the thing is like,
or Kyrie.
yeah. And it just, you have to answer so many more questions when you're under 6'3". So stylistically, organizationally, they're staying away from that for the most part. And they go, well, they traded and they took back Malcolm Brogdon. I'm like, Brog's like a 6'4" tank. Like he's very different. He's also not a long-term answer for the franchise. So if seeing him come in should not be like this. They go, like, oh my God, they're looking at more guards. You're doing your due diligence, getting as many people in as humanly possible because there's a lot of different avenues the team can explore this summer.
That's right. And Brogdon has a big butt. And as you like to say,
big butts matter.
Big butts matter.
And they also brought in Weber State's Dillon Jones, who's an undersized forward. He's a guy who I think is going to have a Josh Hart-like career. In college, he was 20-10-5 at Weber State. 20-10-5 as a 6'5"-ish, 6'6" in shoes, okay? Power forward type.
Ooh.
But his rebound rate is incredible. His playmaking is incredible. His ability to score at 3 levels is great. And all of this, well, he played in the Big Sky. When your level of production is that proliferate, it matters.
How well can he move?
Well,
I honestly, hand up, never seen him play in my life.
He moves. Honestly, that's why I said Josh Hart. He reminds me of Josh. He's not this elite level bursty athlete. He's just a very high IQ, above average athlete.
Yeah.
And that's
which makes him always in that position where you're like, how is he there?
Yes. And you're like, how does this guy continue to find his way there over and over and over again? And if you look at Dillon Jones, like I've got all of the draft measurables in a database, and I can track them against historical precedents. His combine measurements against all NBA players, not just for his position. He's in the 61st percentile for his hand length, 35th percentile in width, 38th percentile in height. But then you look at all of his athletic measurements, with the exception of his vertical, he's in the 70 to 80th plus percentiles. So you measured the combine at 7'4.5" in shoes, so just under 6'6" in shoes, at 237 pounds.
Right.
That's a thick, stocky dude who can play a little well. So, and also his interview today was incredible. He's a high level guy that I think
not a first round pick.
No, he's a second round guy.
Yep.
But I think a guy like him or a Harrison Ingram are guys that they're probably looking at in the second round.
Okay.
Or as remix guys.
All right.
So
it wasn't a heavy hitting, no heavy hitters in today's pre-draft workouts, but Thursday, Friday, keep your eyes
most
peeled.
teams haven't had lottery prospects in.
No.
I know of a couple teams that have had 1 or 2 in, and they've all been in the last couple of days.
And also, it should be noted, it's not just the teams, it's the players too, because the players want to targeted teams that they're going to be going to. They want to make sure they have their agents want them to
teams
make sure
are avoiding Charlotte right now.
They have their, you mean players are avoiding going
I'm
to
sorry,
Charlotte?
Yeah. Players are avoiding going to Charlotte right now.
Because they want their guys to be prepared for when they go in, because it's not just a workout and a media session. They're going through the interviews. They're going through the whole 9 yards with the organization. So and that takes time.
And Thursday and Friday are probably going to be solo workouts.
And also, if you don't want to go to a place, you avoid it like the plague.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the God's honest truth about how these workouts work out and how teams and the players both kind of address these. Closer you get to the draft, the more likely you are to get the guy that is going to be a potential draftee by you.
Yeah, and that's the thing is you take a look at not only that, the draft is further back this year, so the process started later. So it was like, I've seen some people like, well, by this time they'd already had Scoot and Amen and Asari, and it's like, well, the draft's a week later. It's okay. It's nothing out of this process right now is out of the ordinary, and you also have guys like Tajon Saloon and Zachary Rizichet who just wrapped their seasons in France, who are in Treviso, Italy right now. They can't go do workouts. They're in the combine in Italy.
Oh, what are they doing? What's that?
So they weren't
the NBA's.
They have an international combine, yes, for those that are wrapping the season now because they couldn't be at the Chicago combine. So they haven't even started the process yet.
Okay.
And they just wrapped up a 75-game season.
Oh, that's a long season.
Yeah.
That's longer than I thought it was.
Oh no, it's Well, you have the group play stuff.
Okay.